Today's class is sponsored for the four Shleimer for Tzipor Rachel Bas Yael, who's having a medical procedure. Tomorrow it should go well, and she should have a four Shleimer. We're talking about Mezuzah the last 2 weeks. So now, when you put up a Mezuzah on a doorpost, we discussed last week which doors need and where to put it on the door. But when you put a Mezuzah on a door frame, the door frame could be wide. So the question, which part of the door frame do you put the Mezuzah on? So the halacha is you don't put it in the middle of the door frame. You put it on the outside, closer to the outside of the door frame within one tefach. In other words, if this is the door post going into the room, you don't put the mezuzah in the middle here. You put the mezuzah here, closer to the end, the first tefach of going in through the doorpost. And you put the mezuzah, we said, at a little bit of an angle facing into the room that the mezuzah is going into. That's where the place where the mezuzah belongs. Now, what happens if you can't? What happens if you have a doorpost that's very, very thin, or the door covers the entire doorpost, and you can't put the mezuzah here on the doorpost? So then what you need to do is put it on the outside wall, not on the actual doorpost, but on the wall as close as possible to the doorpost. Okay, that's if you cannot put it on the doorpost itself. If you're able to put it on the doorpost, even if it stands upright rather than at an angle, you still do it that way. Okay, you first do it on the doorpost. If you cannot put it on the doorpost, you put it on the wall, okay, on the right side, right next, opposite, perpendicular to the door frame. Sometimes you have that. A lot of times between a kitchen and a dining room, you'll have a swinging door. Now, just because the door is swinging doesn't mean you can put the mezuzah on the wrong side. The mezuzah has to be put on the right side. Now, what happens if the right side ends up in the part that the door swings, and it's going to knock off the mezuzah? Because you don't have enough room between where the door is swinging and the mezuzah. So then you put it, like I said, you put it on the wall, but you can't put it on the other side of the door. If the mezuzah doesn't go on the other side of the door, if that's not where it belongs, you can't put it there. But if you have a door that swings, like this, and if you put the mezuzah, to give this a better example. This is the doorpost that the mezuzah is on. But you have a swinging door. And then when the door, let's say the hinges are on this side, the opposite side, and then when the door swings, there's no room for the mezuzah. It's going to knock off the mezuzah. So then you don't put the mezuzah on the other side. You put it on the inside, like we said, not on the actual doorpost, but on the wall right next to the doorpost. That would be the proper place for the mezuzah to be put. Again, as I mentioned before, the best thing is, if you never did it, or you should actually have somebody that knows the laws of mezuzah come to your house, and they should check the mezuzahs, not checking the mezuzah, that you need a sefer, but they should check the mezuzahs to find out where exactly they belong and where they should be going, and all those types of things. Now, we learned last week that a room which is not 6 feet by 6 feet does not need a mezuzah. Okay, now, originally, when the Rebbe came out with the mezuzah campaign, there are opinions in halacha, there's a Rabbi Kiva Eger and others, that say that if there's a room that's not 6 by 6, but it's off a bigger room, which is 6 by 6. For instance, a very simple case. You have a bedroom, and then you have a walk-in closet. If the walk-in closet is 6 feet by 6 feet, it needs a mezuzah. There's no question it needs a mezuzah because it's a room that's 6 by 6. What happens if it's not 6 feet by 6 feet? The room is 4 feet by 4 feet. does that closet door need a mezuzah? And there are opinions in halacha that say that when you have a small room off a big room, in other words, it's not off a hallway, it's off a big room, and then off the big room you have a bedroom closet, which is not 6 by 6, it's 4 feet by 4 feet. There are opinions that say you would need a mezuzah there. And I'll tell you the truth, when the Rebbe started the mezuzah campaign, Mitzvah Mezuzah, the people were very machmir, and everybody was putting mezuzahs on their bedroom closets, even though the room wasn't 6 by 6. And that's what people did for many, many years. After Gimel Tammuz, after the Rebbe passed away, and people ended up, certain people went and ended up going into the Rebbe's house, they found out that the closets off the bedroom that didn't have 6 feet by 6 feet, there was no mezuzah. Which means that the Rebbe was of the opinion that so since then, the Chabad people don't do it anymore. So if it's a closet, bottom line, a closet off the bedroom that's 6 feet by 6 feet, you need a mezuzah. If the closet is less than 6 feet by 6 feet, you don't need a mezuzah. Now, sometimes you have a basement area, and this is a very important din. You have a basement area that, let's say it is 6 feet by 6 feet, but you can have a boiler that's connected to the ground. And with that boiler, then the room is not 6 by 6. You know, the room itself is 6 by 6, but you have a boiler in the room or other air conditioning, whatever it may be, in that room that takes away floor space of 6 feet by 6 feet, that does not need a mezuzah either. If it's not connected to the ground, you just have a bookcase in that room, okay, you still need a mezuzah because the room is 6 by 6. But if there's something connected to the ground and that takes away from the 6 by 6, then halachically you don't need a mezuzah. Okay? Next, because a mezuzah is an obligation, and we learned last week, women have an obligation of putting up a mezuzah. So the din is women obviously could put up a mezuzah in their own house. If they live alone, they definitely have to put up mezuzah with a bracha. If the husband doesn't do it, it doesn't want it, whatever the story is, a woman can make a bracha and put up a mezuzah without any question. Whether a non-Jew or a child under bar and bas mitzvah, they should not put up a mezuzah. And the way most people say, even if they did put it up, it's no good. You have to take it down, and you have to put up the mezuzah again, because a child is not obligated in the mitzvah, a goy is not obligated in the mitzvah, and therefore they can't put up a mezuzah that it should be valid to be considered a mezuzah, a kosher mezuzah. They tell a famous story. They say it's a true story, that this person built a very, very big mansion, and he bought big, beautiful mezuzahs. Not only the cases were beautiful, but the mezuzahs were beautiful. And somehow the worker decided to put up the mezuzahs. He was a guy. The worker decided to put up the mezuzahs. And then after he puts up the mezuzahs, he tells the owner, oh, by the way, the instruction sheet that was in the case, I threw out because we put it up already. You don't need the instructions anymore. So the guy threw out, not only did he throw out, did he put up the mezuzahs that weren't good, he ended up throwing out all the mezuzahs. The guy had to go buy new mezuzahs because it was mamish not kosher. Okay, now when you roll a mezuzah, I mean, you usually buy a finished mezuzah, but if this is the mezuzah, okay, Shema Yisrael is written, Shema Yisrael, Shem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, and all that. When you roll up the mezuzah, you roll it from end to beginning. You roll it from end to beginning. So you roll it towards the Shema Yisrael, not away from the Shema Yisrael. Most of the time you buy a mezuzah, it's already rolled up. But just for understanding, you have to roll it from the end to the beginning. Now, also, A mezuzah in a bedroom, a mezuzah that's in a bedroom, should be double covered, the inside of the mezuzah, which means like this. Normally, the way the mezuzah is done is like this. They have the mezuzah scroll. They roll it up from end to beginning, like we said, and then the shin is on the outside, and then they wrap it into, let's say, something cellophane, which might not be that good, or wax paper, or whatever, regular paper. They wrap it in there, and then they put it into a case. Okay, then they put it into a case. So a mezuzah that's in a bedroom, because people have marital relations in there and other things like that. So if when you close the door of the bedroom, the mezuzah is outside the door, right? It's on the doorpost outside the door when you close the door, there's no problem with that. If the mezuzah is inside the door, so then the best thing is halachically that they could tell the sefer, do it yourself, that after the mezuzah is wrapped in that wax paper, whatever, you just wrap it once around with a little piece of paper, just to double wrap it, and then you put it into the case. And even though then the mezuzah is in the bedroom itself, it really doesn't matter because it's double covered. Okay, so that's the way the mezuzah has to be done. Now, there's another interesting thing with mezuzahs, and I'm just going to tell you what Chabad custom is with this. Chabad custom is not to use metal cases for a mezuzah. Chabad custom. There's a lot of different reasons. I read somewhere in a sefer, very reliable sefer, that he heard from a chassid who heard from Rabbi Shmuel David Reichik, Olav Shalom, the shliach that was here, passed away many years ago, a very great tzaddik, that the Rebbe once told him, this is what the person wrote, that the Rebbe told him that there's two aspects to a mezuzah. There's an aspect of mitzvah of the mezuzah as a mitzvah, and then we know, like it says, the segula of the mitzvah, the charm of the mitzvah, the good luck of the mitzvah. And we said in the introduction, it protects the person inside and outside. It's a whole insurance. So what the person said that Rabbi Reichik told him, that the Rebbe told him, was the mitzvah doesn't matter, but the segula, the good luck of the mitzvah, doesn't go through metal. I don't know what that means. I asked his son, Rabbi Shimon Reichik, if he ever heard it from his father. He told me he didn't hear it, but that doesn't mean that the chassid wasn't told by Rabbi Reichik. Another reason brought down from the Baal Shem Tov why we don't use metal for mezuzah is because, similar to the mizbeach in the Beis Hamikdash, the altar in the Beis Hamikdash, we know there was a din leisanif aleim barzel. You're not allowed to put metal on the and touch metal to the mizbeach. Any stone of the mizbeach that was touched with metal became disqualified. That to remove the stone and put in a new stone. And it says why? Leisanif aleim barzel. You're not allowed to put metal on the mizbeach. Why? So the Gemara says because the mizbeach is there to lengthen the life of a person. Metal shortens the life of a person. Swords and knives and everything of ammunition is made from metal. So therefore, the Torah says, don't put any metal on the mizbeach because the mizbeach is there to lengthen the life of a person, and this shortens the life of the person. So the Baal Shem Tov said the same thing applies to metal on a mezuzah. Mezuzah's purpose is leman yarichun yamecha, that you should live long. And metal is, again, the concept of ammunition and warfare and so on and so forth. Again, I'm just telling you this Chabad custom. If somebody has metal mezuzah cases, I don't think they should take it down unless they dafka want to, but they don't have to take it down. They're 100% kosher. Now to talk about other things of a mezuzah. Okay, we mentioned in the past that our custom is that on businesses we do put mezuzahs. Unless we mentioned last week or 2 weeks, I remember when it was, that if it's a treifa restaurant, it's inappropriate to put a mezuzah on the front door of a treifa restaurant because people might think it's kosher. What could be done if the guy has an office in the back or other places, then they should put a mezuzah on the door because that people are not seeing and it's his office. So he should put a mezuzah. Now, if a mezuzah fell down, Chas v'sholom, a mezuzah fell down. The thing is, when you put it back up, you have to make another bracha. If it's a doorway with a door, remember we learned that the only time you make a bracha on a mezuzah if the doorway has a door with 2 side posts and a lintel on top. So if it's an archway and the mezuzah falls off, you put it back. There is a minhag that people say and people do that if the mezuzah falls off, they give it to check. Maybe it's a sign from Hashem that something's missing over there. But halachically, you don't have to. But the custom is that if it falls off, you have to make a bracha when you put it back up. Somebody changes a mezuzah for a better mezuzah, the thing is you also make a bracha. You have to make a bracha when you put a better mezuzah. What happens when somebody gives a mezuzah to check? There's a lot of different customs. Obviously, if the mezuzah, God forbid, is not kosher and you're putting up a new mezuzah, so of course you make a bracha. The other one wasn't kosher. What happens if you took down the mezuzah, he gave it the check, and it came back good? Baruch Hashem, it's kosher mezuzah. When you put it back, do you make a bracha or not? So many people are of the opinion you don't need to make a bracha, even if it's down for a while, because you're putting it back up, the same kosher mezuzah. Some people have a minig, and that's basically what I was told. Our minig is that if it's down for a few days, you make a bracha. Like if you're giving a mezuzah to a sefer, and it takes them a week to check it, even though they all come back kosher, but when you put it back to mezuzah, you make a bracha. Some people, if it's down even a few days, or you send it out of town, overnight or whatever, by the time you get it back takes a few days, you still would make a bracha on that mezuzah again. Even an elevator would need a mezuzah. Other things it's about mezuzah, because then it's early, I'm going to go into other types of things. But we mentioned that on the Frierdiker Rebbe's table, where the Frierdiker Rebbe sat and learned and answered letters and did yechidus, the Rebbe brings down, as it's known, that there was a mezuzah on the table. Kosher mezuzah just laying on the table. There are people that the Rebbe told should have a mezuzah in their car. Not hanging a mezuzah, just a mezuzah, a kosher mezuzah in the car. Again, the Rebbe told it not as public to everybody, but the Rebbe did tell it to individual people that they should be doing it. Okay, I think that's basically covering the general concepts of mezuzah. And again, if you have any other questions about mezuzah, you can ask. And okay, the next thing we're going to go to after mezuzah is...
I have a question. Can I ask you a question, Rabbi?
What?
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, but a little louder.
Yeah. What if a goy touches the mezuzah? Does that make it unkosher?
If a guy touches the mezuzah, there is no problem with the mezuzah. There is a thing. It says in halacha you should try to avoid giving a mezuzah to a non-Jew. Like many times a non-Jew will come into a store. They like, they're superstitious people. So a lot of them like to have a mezuzah. So in halacha it says you really shouldn't try to give a mezuzah to a guy, even though they bring down, there's a famous story in the Medrash that Rebbe gave Antoninus, the Roman emperor, who was his close friend, but a guy, Rebbe gave him a mezuzah, but that they say is a different situation. He was the king, and Rebbe knew that he was going to treat it properly. But as a rule is brought down, you should try to avoid giving a mezuzah to a god.
Rabbi Shusterman, Rabbi, what if let's say
why is the
if so room doesn't, there's a situation where the room doesn't need because it's too small, like a closet, but could you do it anyway?
You could put up a mezuzah without a bracha.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a question of putting up, like we said, two mezuzahs. There are opinions. There is an opinion. Not everybody agrees with them. What happens if you don't know where the mezuzah should go? There's no door. There's no opening. It's just a doorway, and you don't know. Do you go from A to B or you go from B to A? So even though we don't paskin like that, but there are opinions in halacha that say put up two mezuzahs, one on each side. Why isn't it called adding on to the mitzvah? They said you're not doing it to add on to the mitzvah. You're doing it because you don't know. Is it this door, this side, or this side? But factually, we don't paskin like that, and we don't put up two mezuzahs on the doorpost. And again, the mezuzahs also have to be put in the right place. Again, you can't put up a mezuzah too high or too low. It has to be in the proper place.
Did I hear correctly, Rabbi, that we should put mezuzah in our car?
No, I said there were people that the Rebbe told individuals to keep, not to put it up on the door, just to keep a mezuzah in the car as a segula. But again, the Rebbe did not make that a general statement. There were individual people that the Rebbe did tell they should have a mezuzah in the car. Our basic custom is we don't do it.
Rabbi, if let's say the mezuzah was put on improperly, and you have to take it down and put it back again, do you make a bracha?
If it was put up completely improperly, yeah, you have to make a new bracha.
New bracha.
Yes, you'd have to make.
Rabbi, does the major door, the entrance of the condominium, that I would say like half of the people are Jewish, the major entrance of the condo, would that require mezuzah?
That would require mezuzah, like we learned last week, a partnership between Jew and non-Jew. You should put up a mezuzah without a bracha. So it says, if it won't cause any fighting, let's say that the goyim will get upset that this is being done, then you don't put it up. But otherwise, if they wouldn't care, you can put it up without a bracha. Okay, the next thing that we're going to learn, which applies to men and to women, is preparing themselves for davening. How to prepare your body to daven and how to prepare the place where you're davening. Now there's a pasuk that says, Hikein likras elokecha Yisrael. Hikein means prepare yourself to meet your God, Jew. In other words, the Yidden should be prepared to meet God. Which means that when a person davens, and by the way, this doesn't only mean in shul, it doesn't only mean on Shabbos, it means any time during the week a person is davening, and this applies to men and to women, and to a certain extent kids. I'm not talking, God forbid, somebody is really sick in bed and they're wearing pajamas, they can daven in pajamas. I'm saying generally people should not be davening in clothes that are improper. And he says, the Shulchan Aruch says, you should wear garments when you're davening like you would go meet a king, an officer, a prominent person. You wouldn't go to a prominent person. Maybe today everybody does everything in pajamas. Maybe in today's world they'll go everywhere with everything on or off. So he says even if you're davening in your home alone, you should daven properly. The feet should be covered. The proper, modesty of davening. In fact, as we'll soon get to, one of the reasons why Chassidim wear a gartel. And I'm going to explain this for the few minutes that we have and explain why many religious people don't and Chassidim do. And that is like this. In the time of the Gemara, until the time of the Gemara, people didn't have what's called shirts and pants. The men would wear long robes. Like you see in the pictures of, they show the Yavis and the Shvatim and those people. They didn't have shirts and pants. They would have long robes. Then, according to halacha, it was mandatory to have a gartel. Why? A gartel is actually, literally a gartel is a Yiddish word. It's basically a rope that separates between the higher parts of the body and the lower parts of the body. In Yiddish, it's called a gartel. Okay? It means something that separates between the higher part of the body and the lower part of the body. There is a din in the Gemara that when a person davens, the ein libe raya esa, the heart is not allowed to see the lower parts of the person. Okay, seeing meaning there has to be a separation between higher and lower. So therefore, we have what's called the gartel. What is the gartel? It's a belt, okay, that separates the higher part from the lower parts of the body. That was mandatory in the time of the Gemara, through the Gemara. Later on, Taisvis, the Rishonim, and those people write, they bring down that says nowadays that men wear shirts and pants, so that itself is a separation between higher and lower. Therefore, you wouldn't need to have a mezuzah. You wouldn't need to have a gartel. Okay, why? Because you have a separation, the shirt and the pants. By the way, God forbid if somebody's in a hospital and they have their hospital robe, the hospital gown as it's called, over there you must wear a gartel or a string, a belt. You must wear something to separate the higher parts of the body and the lower parts of the body, because over there the heart sees the nakedness, as the Gemara says the expression. But many people are lenient, and today, because today we have shirts and pants, and therefore there's not a problem with it. By the way, this din, without getting into it, applies only to men, not to women. The din of not the heart seeing the erva applies only to men, not to women.
I have a question.
What?
What about a belt? Is a belt for a man?
Belt would be good. In fact,
a belt is a gartel. Could it take a place of a gartel?
Yes, you can use the belt as a gartel. In fact, many men, when they go to a simcha and they forget the gartel, so many guys will do, they'll take off their tie and wrap it around their waist as a gartel. There's no holiness to a gartel. Men that wear a gartel don't go into the bathroom with it, because a garment that we wear only for davening, like a talis or a gartel, so the Shulchan says you don't go into the bathroom with like a kittel on Yom Kippur. Those who wear a kittel on Yom Kippur don't go into the bathroom with a kittel. For the same reason, because garments which are designated only for prayer, that's the only time you wear it is during davening, so you don't go into the bathroom with it. The gartel is a shmata. It's a belt. You're done with it, you throw it out. You don't have to bury it. Okay, so come back to when we go to Tanya, the Chassidim would wear a gartel anyway. Why? Because of this pasuk. You have to prepare yourself for davening. How do you prepare yourself for davening? You're already wearing a suit, and so will you prepare by doing something, by putting on the gartel. By putting on the gartel, in addition to the additional purpose of separating the heart and the lower parts, you also actually do that as a preparation for davening. Okay, let's go to Tanya.